Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric Ellis.
Good morning, Tommy. You're getting your first standing ovation
Yes.
of the day.
I'll take it.
That's right. That's exactly right, man. How have you been, Tommy?
Been well, Eric. Been well. Doing a lot of things still from a business perspective, still servicing our clients, right? We have a lot of need out there, and it's not all known above the waterline, those needs. Sometimes we have to take a deeper dive.
That's right.
And understand what is the core issue. And sometimes, Eric, we've learned and continue to learn that the core issue is around just that sense of belonging, trust, appreciation, value, all of those kind of core values that really can move an organization forward or have it stumbling and tripping and falling at times. But that's what I love, what we do. And that's how my week has been, right? I keep a smile on my face, Eric, and not smiling not to cry, but smiling to be optimistic that God will bless me to see something that is not readily present, right? And I smile like I know something's coming. There's a reason. So my week has been just that on the business side and personally, all is good. All is good. So
good, Tommy. Well, I certainly enjoy our time together, man. It is not easy thinking of ideas each week, although the world is filled with ideas, insights, topics, moment by moment, second by second. There's an unlimited amount of things to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about remaining grateful in the midst of turmoil. And I would say that is what we see, Tommy, all around us right now is turmoil. This week, Tommy, I didn't sleep a couple of nights. Judy was up doing work one night, all night, and I was really kind of up with her. And then I got a little sickness that had overcome me. With COVID and everything going around, man, you just start getting real nervous. And so I had at least probably 3 nights this week that I just did not sleep. And so then I got a COVID test. Okay, negative, no COVID. Glad about that.
Yeah.
But then went and got all the vaccinations you could get, man. I mean, I went and got the COVID, that booster. I got the pneumonia. I got the RSV. I mean, I was just everything. Load me up. I mean, and the woman said, okay, come here, jab, jab, jab.
Right.
Literally start jabbing me. I said, what? I mean, shots don't even hurt anymore today. You got a little bit of sadistic type of thing, man. She gets in the one arm, then she jabbing. Well, what are we doing? You know. But all of those things, and then I realized that we've got 2 significant wars going on. And Judy is saying to me to some extent, Eric, you ought to turn all that stuff off. I just want to stay abreast of what's happening in the world around us. But then I finally was overcome with this fact that there is so much more to be grateful about, Tommy. And so I thought, man, our community needs that. We need that. We have to just have a heavy dose of reminders and taking time to talk about, Tommy, the things that we're grateful for.
Absolutely, Eric. I'm right with you. I'm excited about this conversation too. And being grateful, I think, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult to be grateful. Yes, so I would like to welcome and invite our community to chime in this conversation this morning. Right. This conversation is not only one that we say, here's what I'm experiencing with regards to gratefulness, but we want to hear others' experiences with gratefulness and being grateful, and or hearing from others within their communities how they're grateful. So thank you. Being grateful amidst adversity and during the calm. That's it. So let me read this. It says, yes, expectation about something amazing is coming. Sometimes we don't know how, but it's coming. Well said.
Right. I think that was a quote from what you just said, and so that's an entrepreneur's lifeblood. Is this right here? Expectation about something amazing is coming. I've been like that my whole time since I've been in business. And my wife just looks at me like, "You've been saying that your shit was going to come in a huge way ever since I known you." I got it honestly. My father said the same thing all my life. And what it did, Tommy, is it really had me on edge like Christmas. I was just really waiting for something great to come. And Tommy, I love that you're waiting for something great while you're delivering things that are great. So right now you are also delivering on those things, man, to others in ways. And then we don't know how, but we do know that's what our faith is. Let's look at the next comment that someone had to say.
Yeah. Again, being grateful amidst adversity and during the calm, right? Again, there's a calm amidst the storm. So are we grateful when we're in the calm and or when we're in the storm? Right. And it's easy. And I like this a lot because I know we're going to be exchanging some of the areas in which we feel or experience gratefulness. But if you don't mind, I'll jump in real quick
Yeah,
with one,
absolutely, Tom.
Eric. I'm very grateful about my health. Oftentimes I've experienced and other people experience when we go to prayer and we ask for forgiveness, gratefulness, etc. It's when we're sick, right? And then we come through that sickness and we're healthy for X amount of days, weeks, and months. Are we still grateful for our health? I say that I am. I am. I literally just, there's some things that my body I know that I'm not experiencing, right? That could be unhealthy,
Right.
right? Where I look around with people around and other people are experiencing that. So I'm always very, very grateful that when I wake up in the morning, I'm waking up, I have some sense of health at different levels, Eric,
Right. Right. That's right.
but I'm here.
Mhm.
I'm here. I'm here. So that's one of the things that I'm grateful for.
Right. So I started off and I said, I'm grateful for my family and close friends like Tommy Lewis and T. Cooley. Uh, I am really grateful that we have a deep friendship, that there's nothing, Tommy, that you and I can't talk about.
Yeah.
I love Terry Cooley. He's absolutely my brother. And I feel safer in the world because of you all. When I see you, I'm wanting the best for you. When I see you, it's something different than everybody else I see. That's Tommy. That's my guy. And I don't take that for granted, Tommy, because a lot of people are very lonely in this world. And I'm seeing it even among, for my kids. My grandmother told me, she said, Eric, in all of your life, she said, count yourself fortunate if you have more than one or two good friends in your life. That was a big thing. I was like, oh, grandma, what is you talking about? I got 10, 15 friends. I got all kind of friends. Everybody knows my name.
Yeah.
That ain't a friend. That's not a friend. And so I am grateful for that. For my kids, I'm grateful that they are alive and pursuing their dreams in a greater or lesser degree. That Judy and I told this to Judy the other day, because as parents, a lot of times you spend time strategizing around how to help your kids get to their problems, get to the next level, get to the launching them.
Yeah.
You don't often enough spend enough time being grateful that you have literally delivered, in our case, 4 additional human beings who care about others. And that's just in the world of hateful and hatred kind of situations and people, man. If you delivered that to the earth, then that right there is something that we can be happy for, but we don't think about it.
Yeah, Eric, that was profound because as parents, obviously, well, it may not be obvious, we want the best for our children.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some roads that they are traveling that have already been traveled.
Mm-hmm.
And so we say, hey, heads up, warning sign, stop sign, go left, go right.
Right.
And we're literally kind of pushing them out of their own driver's seat.
Yeah.
And we let me take the wheel.
Right.
Right. Because I know how this road goes.
Right.
And then at one point in the growth of our children, they get to a place to say, are you going to let me drive?
That's right.
Right. I mean, because it's my car. It's my road.
Right.
I can take the high road or the low road, but in any case,
right,
it's my road. I can go left, I can go right.
That's
in any
right.
case, will you allow me to do it? Because we know by learning how to drive, you cannot tell someone how to drive. Yeah, you can do that all day.
Right.
And they can nod. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
But until they actually drive and get the feel, maybe have that first fender bender,
Right.
Eric,
Right.
then it's, oh my goodness, then all of that adrenaline and anxiety comes in.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that's when we know our children, when they experience that first fender bender, it could be very early,
Right.
that bump in the road, if you will. But then we say, okay, let me sit in the back seat, right? And just be grateful that I'm going along with the ride. Literally.
That's right. That's powerful, Tom. And the thing is, the first thing you're doing when you're not at the wheel is you're like,
yeah.
I mean, you're doing all of this. But then if you just relax, you can sit back and say, they're driving.
Good driving.
They're driving. They're driving. Yep. It's a little rickety right now, but that's okay. Look at the excitement on their face. Look at the attention that they had. They got them wheels stranglehold on. And then you say to yourself that I've introduced some things to them that are going to they're going to make it all right for them. And Tommy, you've got to be grateful to be able to see them do what they're doing. Terry Cooley says, "Good morning, gentlemen." And so we are so glad. Tommy, you want to throw up the next one? What?
Yeah, for me, my next one would be faith. I'm certain that's one of yours as well, Eric. But my faith, I think for myself, it's a little bit. Well, it's not a little bit. It's less religious, right, and more faith-based and spiritual. There are some conversations that I have with my God, which I call God, that there's some tough conversations that he is having with me.
Right.
And I keep it private because it's like he knows,
right.
When dealing with certain vices, dealing with certain, self-critiques or sense of self, or even some ill thoughts, Eric, real talk.
Yeah.
Some of those things come in. I'm like, oh, that was not godly at all.
Right.
And then he tells me, I heard you. I'm like, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to work on that, but I need you.
I'm trying to work on it. And he says, I'm still here with you.
Right.
If you go to church, I'm there with you. If you don't, I'm there with you.
Right.
If you cuss and fuss, I'm there with you. If you praise me, I'm there with you. He is always there. My faith is my anchor and my foundation. And it's uncracked, unwavered, and level. My faith is level, right? And so that's one thing I depend upon. And as I grab my friends, my families, as you mentioned, I bring them onto me, standing on the rock of faith, right? I do that, and I thank him in gratitude to say thank you for Eric Ellis, thank you for my best friend Anita, thank you for my wife Penny, thank you for these folks because there have been some friends and family in the past that's come, and Eric, unfortunately, have gone.
Yeah.
Right. So there's not around, but my faith is my foundation.
I love that, Tommy. I agree with that. My mother was a preacher, my grandmother was a preacher, but I remember the first conversation that I had with God. I was like, God, I can't serve you for my mother or my grandmother. If I can't have a relationship with you, this doesn't work. And I'm grateful that I'm able to have these conversations with God, that God knows me. And what God keeps showing me is that He'll love me in spite of my weaknesses, but that weaknesses are, things that you sort of willfully allow to continue. There's just a cost in that. God saying, like, I'm not going to kill you because of that. It's just that there are consequences related to those decisions. And so the more you make decisions that line up with my level of integrity for you, my word, what it says, the better your life is lived. That doesn't mean that you are going to have more perfect days. It just means that the closer you walk with alignment to the Spirit of God, the better. For me, my faith closes the distance. I had to write this down between my needs and my limitations. So oftentimes we have needs, but we cannot get those covered. And it's that distance that my faith closes. God says, hey, this is something for me. I like it. The quicker you get to the end of yourself, the faster you get to me.
Yes.
And so, Tommy, we have to continuously remind ourselves of that, because you and I are achievement oriented. We are guys that get up to go kill something. We've been doing that for decades. And so entrepreneurship for us, just another opportunity to go kill something and then drag it home and say, okay, fam, everybody can, put your napkin on, you can join in on what I killed. But oftentimes you lack the ability to kill something and you're literally looking at the shore. It's like when I was about to drown when I was 13 years old. I had gone out to Lock and Grin. I was out there. Everybody would swim out to the thing and they jump back off the side. I did it. I tiptoed out there like I'm swimming. Got to the little deck. But then this time they jumped off the side. I jumped off the side, didn't know it was deeper than the front. So now the water is that much over my head. And Tommy, you jumping off the bottom, but you about to run out of energy on that one.
Yeah.
That's the distance that we sometimes have with trying to get to air and oxygen and survival in business. We can't do it on our own. Someone else came along, saw me doing that, and saved me.
Yes.
I believe that that's what God does for us in our businesses, in our lives. He closes the distance between our needs and our limitations, and we are grateful. That's why we don't mind giving God credit.
Right.
Us talking about our faith in God is not you and I having a we're so good conversation, because we are actually saying that we're not good, that we make a lot of bonehead mistakes and decisions. We're human, we're flesh like everybody else. We just have a faith in God that helps to close the distance between our humanity and what it is we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, Eric, that's spot on. And it's the invisible hand or the physical hand that reaches down to assist us or pushes us up when the floor is not there. Right. So you jump in and you are well below the surface of the water, and you kick off the ground, if you will, and you start to rise up, and then you try to kick again. When you're in water, you're kicking kind of against nothing. Right. And that's when panic instantly comes in. Right. You are trying your best effort and kind of not going anywhere.
Right. Because my arms are down and I'm panicking, or they're flailing.
Yes.
And none of that is the stuff to help you get up out this situation.
Then that hand reaches down, right? Someone who was outside of you could see you, and through the grace and gratitude of God says, I see that someone needs assistance.
Right.
And then do something. Two different things, Eric. Seeing, right, the trial, tribulation, the pain, the suffering, and doing something.
Right.
So we have these wars across the world. We have these situations or strifes in this country. A lot of people are watching television with their bag of popcorn.
Right.
Wow. Look at this.
Right. Right.
We got the children are suffering, the women are suffering, the young men are going to war. Wow, look at this. Folks are being offended, oppressed, victimized, blamed, and shamed. Look at this. But they're not always doing anything about it.
Right.
It's more or less entertainment.
Right.
And what you just said, which I agree with, that someone outside of us and then ourselves, we try to do something about it. Right. It could be physical, something. It can be strategic, right? It can be through prayer. Just do something.
Right.
And I think the action of gratitude speaks louder than the theory and the concept of gratitude.
That's powerful.
The action of gratitude.
Right. And talking about grateful, so I have to be great. I don't know if I've been grateful enough across my life from that 13-year-old event of drowning to today. I've said it a few times, but I've never been grateful that God didn't let that be the end of my life, because a lot of people die by drowning. Now, I'll tell you that for me, when you're gone, you're gone. So there ain't no real big disappointment for me. I'm dead. But it leaves a hole in the rest of the world, in the earth. And so I'm grateful that someone rescued me then, and that God is a part of what rescues us in that now. The next one that I have is, no, Tommy, let's go to yours. Let's go to yours.
Yeah. My next one, Eric, is naivete or perspective.
Okay.
All right. So I think that I'm well-rounded, or trying to be. I'm experienced and all that good stuff, but I have a sense of naivete. In fact, it showed up this past week during training. I was in training. There were about, in this particular training, about 25 or 30 people. 2 hours walking through some courageous conversation, walking through diversity conversations, still exploring self through the lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And so it's interactive. We have some case study scenarios. We have a couple of statements. And so I was asking folks to come up with scenarios, real life scenarios outside of the ones that were printed. And one gentleman, during, this is now like 90 minutes into the session, Eric.
Right.
Throughout the 90 minutes, this guy was moving around. He's shaking. He's crossing his arms. He's looking over his eyeglasses. He's having sidebar conversations. He was just kind of being a silent nuisance.
Right. I've seen them.
And then so he pipes up, says, hey, I have a scenario. So he begins with a scenario, and he's referencing some racial stereotype, right? And he throws that out there, and it's about an Asian population, right? And then he quickly transitions into some racial stereotypes about African Americans, right? He's going into one stereotype and the scenario and how he dealt with it. He goes into another. He throws out a little bit of a comment around until about 4 or 5 years ago, and this is a seasoned man, he never thought that racism existed. Okay. So he learned that about 4 or 5 years ago, right? He's thrown them out. And there are all kinds of people. They're looking at him, looking at me. I can feel them looking at me, Eric, but I'm looking at him, just listening.
Right.
Like this.
Right.
And then he finishes his scenario. He says, I'm sorry if I offended you, Tommy. Oh, what? Were you talking about me? I didn't hear that at all.
Right.
My naivete, I didn't even know he was talking about me, Eric. Right. I was just listening to the scenario, and my perspective was, as a listener, I wasn't taking offense to
Right.
anything he was saying
Right.
because he was talking about a stereotype and wasn't talking about me. I did not receive
You didn't
what he
embrace.
was. I was like, what?
Right.
I did not mean to offend you, Tommy, if I did. And at that moment of my naivete, I literally was grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I was grateful that there was an argument or a conflict that was prevented,
Right.
because Lord knows if I received his
We're
offensive
gonna have a
comments
problem.
personally, we were going to have a problem. And I
Right.
was going to go, it was going to be intellectual.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I was going to get him
Yeah,
intellectually.
you're gonna make him jump off the building versus
Oh,
you.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was ready because I can debate with the best of them. You know,
Right.
you and I and a lot of people. But I was just clueless, and I walked away. And I
I
said I
like
wasn't
that, Tommy.
offended. And a couple of other people of color, and one of them was Asian. They piped up and said, you know, that wasn't offensive to anyone. That was your story. But the question is, how did you deal with it?
Right.
And we turned it back over to him to
Mm-hmm.
unpack what he did, not just to articulate someone else's, you know, stereotypes, whatever, but in the moment, how did you deal with it?
Right.
Yeah, and I love that naivete
I like
at
that too,
times.
Tommy. I like that too. And our kids and everybody has to embrace that more. In other words, bring it down. As in the word of a young lady that works in customer service at one of my clients, she says she tells her people all the time, don't match their negative energy.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes pipe that down. For me, Tommy, I am grateful for my optimism and opportunity and my view about opportunity. So every day, you know, I'm always optimistic generally about what can happen today. The sun is up. I'm feeling good. I am grateful for my set of skills, tools, my purpose. I'm grateful for those things, man. And I always believe that something better is in front of us right now. Any moment, in any moment, life can change. And I think that without optimism, you begin to die. I think that's what death is defined as, is that you get up and no longer are you believing that today, tomorrow can be better than yesterday. And that's not in any materialistic sense. That's that we get a chance to sort of decide that we want to embrace joy and that optimism. I know that that's not something that everybody has, Tommy, and so I'm not suggesting that everybody should. I'm grateful to God that He gave that to me. As I watched my wife sort of struggle with depression for almost a decade,
Mhm.
I told her, Tommy, I said, look, I said, Judy, I said, your only job is to just get up. I don't need you to do anything else. I got this. And when I saw that in her, I was like, God, I just thank you that you've given me enough energy and optimism to do double time now, to do quick step now. It's nothing for me because you've given me the energy and the optimism. And every once in a while, Tommy, you and I, that falls under attack.
Yes.
And when it gets under attack, you say to yourself, wow. But that's when I have to lean more heavily on God. When my optimism has sort of been shipwrecked or sidelined, Tommy, I lean into that as well. I just go down and I'll do the other thing I'm grateful for is music. I'll just go downstairs and say, this is out of my hands right now. God, I don't have any big ideas today. I need your help. So let me go do what I can do and maybe get off the field for a while and let you go to work. And so my optimism is ultimately a result of my faith.
Want to ask you this as a follow-up. You're triggering a number of thoughts, Eric. One of which is a statement, and then I'm going to follow up with a question. So the statement is actually part of the song "Lift Every Voice and Sing," i.e., the Black National Anthem. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died.
Mm.
That's one of the statements, and it allow. I'm asking you that hope and optimism is in the same vein. How do you balance your optimism versus maybe false realism or false reality?
It's a great question, Tommy. I would say that they are close relatives,
Yeah.
and that false reality is generally proven out over time that it never nets anything in real life.
Yes, sir, Eric.
Okay, you just a dreamer now,
You just dreaming.
an
Yeah.
unrealistic dreamer.
Yeah.
You've been having those crazy dreams forever, and we've never seen you achieve anything.
Yeah.
Optimism is this sense that something great is going to happen. And then I put in all the work and all the positive energy to see that come through. And I've got example after example after example of where optimism sort of led to opportunities. It leads to improved relationships. It leads to improved encounters when you are interacting with people. So you see optimism and positivity yield something. But they are, like I say, they're a very close cousin to just false hope. And so that's when depression starts kicking in.
Yeah.
When those of us that know the difference between optimism and false hope,
Yeah.
when we start leaning too much into false hope, we're beginning to question, have I done my part? Have I put in enough energy to make it happen? If I haven't put in enough energy, then it's probably a little bit foolish to think that something great's going to come out of that if that becomes a pattern. Now, if my brain has become my enemy,
Okay.
if my emotions are now arresting me,
Yeah.
I think, Tommy, that's when I have to lean on friends. I have to call out. I tell you, I had the other thing that scared me this week was I was in the bed, and I think because I was sick, but because of so much of the negativity, I had what's called sleep paralysis.
Mm.
I've only had it happen a couple of times in my life, but in the last couple of years, I've had it happen a couple of times where you are asleep, but your brain wakes up.
Yeah.
And but you can't bring yourself to full consciousness.
Yeah.
So this last week I was there, I was awake, I saw Judy there, I was still asleep. The reading that I did on that says that your body does go into a paralysis when you're asleep, so that you actually don't start acting out dreams walking all around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So your body literally goes into a paralysis. But when you come through REM sleep, now your brain has awakened, but your body is still asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy, I tell you, that's a scary feeling because there's nothing, and it feels like forever.
Yes.
And you're saying, Judy, do you see me over here? Pull me into wakeness.
Yeah. Pull me.
Yeah, pull me out of this and into wakeness. And I think that sometimes that's where we can be, with no optimism, that we're just, our body is asleep, our mind is awake, recognizing that we don't have any answers or plans for how we're going to get out of this. And that's when I have to just rest in that. Don't panic. This too will pass, and God's got you.
Again, Eric, phenomenal. I've experienced that paralysis as well. It is that sometimes that sinking dream where you have to keep screaming out, help, help,
Yeah.
as loud as you can
Yeah.
in your mind,
Right.
so much so that you're trying to wake yourself up and get pulled out.
Right.
And it comes out, as a kind of a blast to jolt you awake. But I will connect that to what you just said with optimism. And in my experience with optimism, which I'm grateful for, I've projected certain outcomes. I've planned for some certain outcomes in the future. And that tunnel to the end is so long that I'm sucked into that tunnel, like in 5 years, in 3 years, in 2 months, whatever, I'm going to get out of this. I've had to yell out, help, help.
Right.
Right. And in yelling that out, I'm heard by those outside of that tunnel, that dream, that paralysis, to come in to help me.
Right.
Oh, Lord, Eric, it's that paralysis can be paralysis of analysis, overthinking the problem and the concern as if you can't get through it. That's not optimism.
Right.
You're in paralysis. That paralysis could be simply doing the same thing over and over again and believing that a few tweaks will make it different. But in reality, it's the pull me out of this unconscious behavior, right? Such that I could, really go a different direction. That what you just shared was, again, profound.
Tommy, let me go a little further with that.
Yep.
So Judy and I were having a conversation this week, and I don't think I've ever heard what she said in this way. And it's the difference between what smart people can do as they analyze the cost of prejudice and bias. She was working in a major organization. She came out of Indiana University, bright, very talented. She knew she had a gift of a quick mind. And now here you are in corporate America. And literally, you're beginning to experience discrimination, favoritism, bias. And you're seeing people that are objectively not as talented as you getting promotions, getting raises. And she told me, and I'd never heard anybody say it this way, Tommy. She said, I literally started calculating what the differences were going to be in our lives because of what they were getting. They're getting raised before me. They're getting promotions before me. They're going to be able to stock more money away. They're going to be able to provide better education for their kids. They're going to be able to buy better homes. She said she was literally spiraling down, paralysis, spiraling down in this place of defeat, because you can literally see your brain is smart enough that you're not just a victim of prejudice and bias, but you're smart enough to identify what the earthly cost of those behaviors are. And she said it was God that rescued her from that spiraling act. Like, well, hey, we're not even in that game.
Right.
These people have no power to impact what I'm going to make of you, what I'm going to make of you. And Tommy, that's where our optimism has to ultimately come from, is it goes beyond us, our power, our situation or circumstances. There's something greater out there that's pulling for us. Tommy, in golf, I feel it this way, that if I'm complimentary and positive to others, that I'll get a modicum of that back to my game. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but that's part of what I feel, is that to be a blessing to others creates an opportunity in the atmosphere for there to be goodwill and blessings for me. And I think that that's what I would recommend to our community, that when you are discouraged, start being a blessing more to others, not caught up in your circumstances, not being envious of others, but let goodwill sort of lift up your optimism. Because when that which you sow, you will reap.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of that, golf is as yours, one of our grateful moments. We're grateful for golf.
Right.
For a number of reasons. I'll just share a couple of my reasons that I'm very, very grateful for golf. Eric, I am very grateful that I have some means, energy, and commit time for myself. I'm very intentional about golf because I pay to play. right? I don't get paid to play.
Right.
I pay to play, get out there. It's always a constant struggle, a lot of successes,
Right.
right? But it's a internal competition. Sure, you're trying to beat previous scores or the course or
Right.
even sometimes other people.
Right.
But at the end of the day, for me, golf is two things. I remember when my father introduced me to golf.
Mm.
I
Wow.
was full-fledged into baseball,
Yeah.
coming to golf with everything baseball.
Right.
It wasn't the same,
Right.
right? The baseball swing and the golf swing, two different things. So I'm out there hacking away with him and a couple of his buddies, and they say, they remind me that I'm a baseball player.
Right.
And after that first introduction, my father and I went out a few other times, and the silence that we had between one another, the silent communication,
Mm.
I remember it, and I carry that silent communication in my demeanor on the golf course, Eric.
Yes, you do.
Full transparency.
Right. Yes, you do.
So I'm learning, I'm listening, right? Because there are in my world, there are worse places literally we can be. Golfers say that all the time, but in reality, it's true.
Right.
So I'm grateful to be able to enjoy God's gift with people that I enjoy being
Right.
with,
Right.
right? Because sometimes we're out there and people have different motives and got to say,
Right.
nope, I'm going to check out,
Right.
So that's golf amongst many, many, many things. I'm grateful for because of that gift that keeps giving. I'm reminding of my friendship and brotherhood with you, with my father, even my wife and family members, but particularly with myself. I'm out there because we've golfed many, many years by ourselves.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't need anyone else. I'm just
No,
out
no,
here.
just me and the course and the golf ball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's powerful, Tommy. So I was golfing last Sunday, and it was really not my lowest scoring round, but it was my best performance because I was achieving some things. That the next thing I'm grateful for, Tommy, is I'm grateful for obstacles and failure.
Yes, Eric.
Failure is the birthplace of excellence. And so I had been missing chips all year. You and I we said it early in the season. We don't want anything inside of, 100 yards. We don't want 60, 40, 50, because those are hard distances. I was missing putts regularly, always pulling them to the right, always pulling them to the right. But failure, it creates a determination to not keep failing that way. And so I think that people don't like failure, but failure is a tremendous teacher. And obstacles, they're sometimes the best part of life for us. They are the greatest stories in our lives, are the failures that we've had. I'll never forget when my father's business was struggling and he couldn't buy a winter coat for my sister. I'll never forget when my dad had to depend on my little salary from Scoreboard Restaurant because he was struggling in business. And it was my honor in the midst of that obstacle, in the midst of that challenge, is one of the greatest places in the history of my life that I learned that I can be dependent upon and make a difference in the midst of obstacles and failures. And so people don't oftentimes say that they're grateful for those things, Tommy, but I am, and we need those.
Yeah, let's pull up what Brother Gary Dent has shared. He shares that golf teaches me about golf, the second chance, and focusing on the future. I love that, the second chance.
Mm-hmm.
I love, like you said, you have those obstacles, but then you have a second chance to succeed, right? And for me, that's some of the fundamental joys. I get behind that tree, I get behind that obstacle, and I have that second shot, right? And I execute,
Right.
right? That's part of it. And if I don't, it gets behind another rock, another tree, it goes in the water. I have another chance. It's a par 4. I'm on 9. It's dismal. It's terrible, but I'm just going to do it again.
Right.
Do it again. So shout out to Gary Dent. And I want to publicly shout out Gary Dent. He doesn't know this. I'm going to say this, man. A good brother. Good
Absolutely.
brother. Yeah.
I remember when he
So,
came to Cincinnati.
yes, indeed. I often dream about hitting the lottery, Eric, all the time. I don't always play, but when it gets to $500 million or a
Same here.
billion, I'm like, I'm going to win it.
Right.
Part of my dream, Eric, and Gary, I'm telling you, it's going to come true. When I hit the multi-billion dollar
Right.
lottery,
Right.
I have all plans of buying myself an airplane, and Gary Dent is my pilot.
Oh, okay.
Yo, yes.
Okay, I
So
didn't know that.
he and his wife is going to join, right? And we're going to be with Judy and Eric Ellis and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to be bouncing around, and Gary Dent, he's going to be with us. Those are my dreams,
I
right?
love that.
And we're going to do it, man. I'm
love that.
so happy and blessed to know good people who have unique skill sets, right?
Now,
unique skill sets.
Tommy, let me jump in here on this sort of failure and then optimism and second chance. That's the point that he made.
Yes.
So you and I know that in golf, there are some people that are the masters in golf. They are consistently week in, week out shooting in the 70s. Keith Holland is one of those in our club. And Danny Oliver over the years has been one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never forget the story that Danny told a couple of weeks ago when he said to us that he came out on one day. Now he's a 70s shooter and shot 124 in a 2-day tournament. Huh?
Right.
I mean, 124. So our mind left us.
Yeah.
How does a Danny Oliver ever do that? And he says, once a year, I'll go through a period of the yips and I'll come up with some kind of crazy score. He said, I was almost had reached a level of embarrassment, Tommy, that I didn't want to finish the round. But he waded through and finished that round. Community, sometimes you have to be okay with standing next to your worst self in front of others. I think that there's something character building about that. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And I cannot tell you that I show up all the time in the face of, because Tommy, when I performed bad with the club on a couple of times, I didn't go in. I didn't go in either. I mean, I just didn't want to see anybody because I was, going over my own failures, licking my own wounds. He said he came back the next day and shot a 64. Tommy, how do you do that? 124 in the next day. So that second chance that Gary is talking about, that second chance is available to us, not just in golf, but in life. And so when you fail, whether that's in a conversation, you didn't want to be drug into the argument, maybe even started the argument. It was stupid. You didn't see it then, you saw it later. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, apologize, and you got more chances to try to get it right.
A second chance. That might be an opportunity for another segment on diversity conversations and how do we acknowledge, recognize, and value second chances.
I like that, Tommy.
Right. And those second chances can come in forms of part A, B, C, and D. In our line of work, Eric, we've experienced where a person or people have made a decision to not give us a second chance. That's at least in their mind.
Right.
We're going to kind of terminate this contract.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done. We're done. And sure, it may be stressful and painful at the moment, but it's also a constant reminder to renew ourselves, to keep working. So when the client says, you made that mistake, we cannot give you a second chance because we don't give second chances, all that other language, right?
Right.
And then they say, enough, we terminate the partnership. We say, what? They gun it. And then the next sentence, we got to get some more work, right? We got to help some more people.
Right.
Because when we're in that room, when the decision is made to not have the second chance, outside in the hallway are second chance A, B, C, D, and E saying,
I love that.
I'm the second chance.
Pick me.
Right? That season in the room is over. That season in the moment is over. Your second chance is how you review and see the opportunity. So you hit the ball, it goes behind the tree. Are you going to focus on the tree or the second chance shot? What do you do? Some people say, I need to focus on this tree. How am I going to get around the tree? How am I going to get through the tree? How am I going to get under the tree? Good luck with that. Or are you going to focus on the shot, calming yourself down, understanding your skills, capabilities, and being optimistic that this is going to be the best shot. This is going to be the best you.
Right.
Go in your backswing easy, pause, come through, Eric, make good contact, and watch the beauty of the good shot. Watch it.
Right.
So I know we're always using golf analogies.
Mm-hmm. Forgive us, everybody.
But for those who are less familiar, it's important. And so when we connect it to something even more tangible, it's the preparation, sure. But the second shot is what we see it as, Eric.
Right.
Yeah, it is optimistically, if I'm still living, if I'm still here, I have a second chance. Shoot your shot.
Right. That's beautiful. And let's see, comment here.
And that's why it's super important to remain in a positive state so we can see what's opening for us.
Right. I totally agree with that, Tommy. I remember in the midst of the pandemic, here we are, 2019, 2020. We're going through this global, pandemic. And on that day, I get a call from a major client saying that we're going another direction. And it had nothing to do with our performance. They were just arbitrarily making that call. And then a couple of other things happened. And then Donald Trump closed the country down on that day in March of 2020. I come home, I had to tell Judy all this bad news. And she says to me almost, after 25 years of business, are you going to go try to find a job? Mm-hmm. Even you just threw in the towel on me? Yeah. And so I went to my driveway, Tommy, and I just turned on the music, turned on the car, and sat there in the car. Mm-hmm. Like, God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yes. Mm.
And in the midst of that, God shows me, no. I got you. I got this. Don't worry about that. I got this. And Tommy, there was no earthly way that in the flesh I could figure out a pathway forward that was going to be fast enough to enable us to survive. And literally, the world opened up in terms of the virtual world, and a whole new aspect of my business was born out of that loss. Yeah. And so looking back on it now, I've got so many more smaller, medium-sized clients. I just can't believe that I feared that better days was possible. But that's a second chance, Tommy, to move from failure and assuming for a minute that that's all there is, that failure is the final word. It's not.
It's not. It's not the final word at all. Failure is not the final word. Remaining grateful in the midst of turmoil, Eric, that's what we're talking about today. That we're assuming that there is turmoil at whatever level. It can be global war, it can be a personal health issue, it can be anything inside and outside of our control. Turmoil is becoming the new norm and the constant.
Right, right. Let's see, Tommy. I think that I'm grateful for my unique fingerprint, my diversity, my quirkiness. My wife thought when she married me, and she just laughs with the kids about this, that she said, "Well, he was kind of silly and quirky, immature. I'll fix all that."
Yeah.
Yeah, I get all that out of him, and then I'll have the rest. I'll eat the rest, spit those bones out. I'll eat the rest. And now here we are, 30 some years later, it's still there. And my daughter be like, "Mommy, how'd you marry a guy so crazy?" But I'm grateful for that, Tommy. I am grateful that God made me me.
Yes.
That means sometimes I'm gonna be a little loud, sometimes I'm gonna be laughing at anybody else laughing. And I am just grateful for my unique fingerprint. It is the title of my music project that's coming out, My Sound. And I believe that everybody has a sound, and that instead of being discouraged by what your unique fingerprint is, you have to just really embrace that and know that there's only one you in the whole world. And you have got to, at least, if you only get one vote, it's got to be you. You got to vote. Come on now, you got to pull a lever for yourself, And so I choose to do that, Tommy. And I also choose to block out the thoughts that would have me envious that I'm not somebody else or have some other set of skills. I am clear that I'm not going to get everybody else's hand. I'm just grateful for the one I have, and so I think that that's something that I would encourage everybody to be grateful about. You and I have a lot in common, but there's a lot that's different about us. And I'm grateful for those things in Tommy Lewis that are different than they are in me.
Likewise, Eric. It's something else for me to pause and to have this conversation about being grateful. I think that is part of acknowledging gratefulness, right? To pause and say thank you, to give flowers where flowers are due, to give acknowledgement and recognition when it's due, and like you said, to cast a personal vote, right, of self.
That's
And
right.
so,
That's right. And
I love it.
T. Cooley has said here, I'm grateful and thankful for this hour of encouragement with this show and my two brothers. Terry, I feel the same way. Words cannot express how deep, my love is for Terry Cooley, Tommy Lewis. I'm grateful. My son was out in LA staying, my middle son staying with Terry. And, I was like, "Terry, I know he eating you out of house and home." I tried to offer Terry some money, man, to which he laughed, and, but we know that it is a gift from Almighty God for us to have this friendship, that that there's somebody on planet Earth that you can call, that there's nothing that could happen to me in my life that I couldn't tell him about. I'm grateful that he gets up, 3 hours earlier than the rest of our folk at 6:30 a.m. To weigh in and participate with you and I, Tommy, this morning. Terry, we're grateful for you.
Absolutely grateful. And Eric, and my last comment is to your point of T. Cooley's offering up of his home, his love, maybe even guidance.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
That I take great pride in that, Eric. I want to be called upon for me, selfishly, I do. I don't always have the resources. I don't
Right.
always have all
Right.
the time.
Right.
But I want to be called upon when someone in my sphere or even outside says, hey, hey, call that brother, and I'm going to say, hey, let me direct you to someone who can actually help you in the way
Right.
you need help.
That's right.
That's that customized service, right? You're asking me to do something that I can't do, but I know someone that can.
Right.
I take great pride and I'm grateful to be at the table, right? And dining and breaking bread after giving grace. Lord, I want to be a vessel to you. I want to do that. And Eric, you do that so well, so often. I thank you, T. Cooley and others. And I want to leave with that charge to our community before I turn it over to you, Eric, for a final word. That's our charge, is that in the midst of this turmoil, I would ask that we challenge ourselves and others to articulate and act out gratefulness, to be grateful and not just think it, to act in a grateful way, right? Whatever grateful is to you, be that, be you. And so I think that process will help us holistically, Eric, weather any storms of turmoil, conflict, anything that of difficulty. So I'll turn it over to you for a final word.
Tommy, I'm going to close out in this authentic way and say that I'm grateful, as T. Cooley has said, I'm grateful for this show. I'm grateful for our opportunity to do it together. In a world where you and I have had to be solo acts, and we're quite comfortable with that. I'm grateful that we have each other. And I can tell you that there are many times when I know in my flesh I don't want to show up. I feel exhausted. I don't know if I have anything to say. At the beginning of today, I didn't know how this was going to go. You know what I mean? But I think God has given us the gift of this show to show us that He's got it. He's got us, that everything's not dependent on you and I, that up to this point, He's not sort of set us free to try to tweak and tighten up every nook and cranny of this thing, which brings to it a degree of authenticity that I'm grateful for and surprised to some extent, because we can never tell exactly how the day or the conversation is going to go. That's what it feels like to be in the hand of God and to be out there on your faith. But the encouragement that we get back from our community, I want to say to those people that watch this show that we love you, we appreciate you, and we're going to hang in here as long as we can, because it's been a blessing to us.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
all right,
indeed.
Community, we'll see you. Have a great week, and we'll look forward to you joining us and inviting some friends to join us next week at the same time for another diversity conversation. Take care now.
Take care.